So this is the magic paste with no name then, Andy?
That's the one, yeah.
It's a really unusual texture, isn't it? It's very, very light, very flaky. I guess you can't tell me what's in it, but over to you. Tell me what you can and show me how you mix it.
Well, looking at it, you know, first impressions, you'd think, well, you know, it looks lighter, there's bigger particles in it, you know, than a normal powdered pellet paste. So it looks different straight away. But when it really becomes different is when you mix it. So the way I mix it is just pour a small amount in. You want to end up with about a tennis ball size of paste. That's what I reckon is enough to catch something like 100 pound of fish on. So all I do is tip about that much in a bait box and then slowly add water to it. And just stir it round with your fingers until it becomes similar consistency to, well, a thick porridge, if you like.
Yeah, it's very hot porridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just light in colour, is it? It's actually very light, you know, in weight.
It is, yeah, and that's why it's so effective, that is, because, you know, most paste, when they're mixed from a pellet paste, they get really heavy, but this is still light and fluffy, so the fish readily take it. So really, that's all there is to it. And once you've got all the water spread evenly around, just take it out. Like I say, a tennis ball's about right to catch 100 pound of fish on, so that's a good sort of size ball to mix for a start. And you'll see it's a soft consistency, that, you know, it's all together, but it's not really firm. It's just nice and spongy in the hand. But that, for a start, is too wet to fish. You know, we want to be fishing with this on rod and line tackle, where you're using the force of the rod to cast the thing out. So obviously, with it being that wet, it would come off. But in about 15 to 20 minutes time, that will have, most of the water in there will have been absorbed, and so that we'll have a consistency very similar.
And as if by magic, here's one I made earlier.
To this one I made earlier, yeah.
So that's about 20 minutes, you'd say, before it gets like that, yeah?
Yeah, 20 minutes, probably half hour, depending on the weather. Warmer weather, then you'd wait a less time. But you can see straight away that it changes colour slightly because it's gone firmer and it's drying out slightly, but it's still quite soft. But you can see when that's on the hook there, you can swing that round and round. You know, it's really soft, that is, but it won't come off the hook.
Yeah, it's tremendous, that is, isn't it? It's stringy, but not too stringy, isn't it? It's kind of the halfway house. You know, you don't want a really stringy paste that would put fish off, but you know, you can see them picking up that really is.
You know, that is the beauty of it. Like I said earlier, before this was developed, then any other paste that you want to fish on the rod had to be moulded into like a putty consistency, so the thing would stay on as you gave it the force to cast the thing out. So that's why, you know, this is a brand new breakthrough in paste fishing.
And you've been catching loads of fish on it.
Yeah, I've had some really good results recently on this fishery at the Glebe. You know, I won a match with £140. Most of the fish are caught on this bait, and also I had a very good weight. A few weeks later in the match on the same pool, be actually fishing it on a waggler, not even feeding anything, just casting it down the middle of a lake, and you know, where you could see where the fish were, and they were taking it shallow, you know, suspended over probably 7 foot deep water. So before we move on then, Gareth, I'll just show you how I present the paste on the hook and how it looks in the water. So all I do is simply just tear a bit off with your finger and thumb, about that, make sure there's some raggedy edges around the end of the bait, and simply put the hook straight down the middle of it and get all the hook behind the paste, so you know you've got a lot of bait on there, so it's not going to fall off on the cast. And like you see, when that goes into the water, you'll see it just fluff up, sink quite slowly, and you can see straight away all the bits that are coming off it.
Bits coming off, yeah.
You know, the fish smell that just before it takes it, and you know, and that's a bait you can present at 40, 50 yards out.
And this is the second paste you've been working on, isn't it? And this is all about making it easier for pole anglers to fish the paste, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a paste we've been working on. You know, there's a lot of confusion over paste on how to mix them and how soft they are. You should be using them, but this is really simple. It's called 1-to-1. All you need is a bait box or it's the same quantity of paste mix as you do water. So there you are, I've got a bait box full of water and a bait box full of paste. Now when that water's added to the paste, then it will be perfect to use. So you can't get confused anyway on how to mix it. So either way, if you put the paste in first or the water in the first, it doesn't matter. And just agitate it so that all the water mixes in with the sort of paste mixture, and you'll see that's far too wet for now, but after sort of 20 minutes, half hour or so, that'll be a nice consistency to use with a paste pot that we're already working on to be used with this type of fishing.
Well, it couldn't be much simpler than that, could it? Chuck it in, add the same amount of water, and you're done. And once again, you've got some there that you've made earlier, haven't you?
After, say, you leave this for about 15 to 20 minutes, after that time, you'll be left with a ball of paste like that, lovely consistency, a nice, fluffy, not really heavy paste. And like I say, once we get a pole pot out, you'll be able to put that into the pole pot, ship it out into your peg, and just tip it straight into the water.
And you like fishing your paste really quite wet, don't you?
I do, yeah. To improve this further, you could have a bait box of water on your bait tray, and just before you put it in the pot, you'd mould the ball like that, you'd put your hook in it, and just before you put it in the pot, you'd dip it in water and get it really wet on the outside, still quite dry on the middle so it stays on the hook, and then just put that in your paste pot. And because it's wet and smelly on the outside, you know, the fish will take it faster, they can smell it more, and that's what makes it so effective. And
is there much work more to be done on these pastes, or are you pretty much there with them?
Well, no, I think these are really, on all paste fishing, then these are the two main pastes that you'd need, you know, on any sort of paste fishing sort of conditions, really.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Andy. You know, it's not very often these days that a journalist gets a real exclusive. It's a bit of a privilege to see the work that's gone into a new product range. And these two new pastes, they're innovative. They're about making fishing easier, really, you know, on the rod and line and on the pole. And I believe that they're heading your way from Sonu Baits in spring 2010.